Is there a goalie controversy within the Flames, and how should Craig Conroy go about handling their potential trade candidates? Hey everyone, welcome into Hot Topics. Rob Wong, joined alongside by Postmedia Calgary Flames writers Wes Gilbertson and Danny Austin. And guys, as the Flames have been out on this road trip, we've seen an interesting wrinkle here with the goaltending. Dustin Wolf finally getting into a game the other night, but not by his own accord, of course, coming in relief of Devin Cooley, who had started the previous two games. Ryan Huska has talked about, getting these guys in there and sort of playing the hot hand, if you will. Dustin Wolf coming off that incredible season last year. I think a lot of people see him as the true number one of this team, but his play so far this year maybe has not led to that. How do you think Ryan Huska should go about handling this goaltending situation, at least in the short term?
Well, I want to start by answering your first question off the hop, and that is no. Definitely, there is not a goaltending controversy in Calgary. Dustin Wolf was signed to a 7-year extension in the offseason for a reason. In terms of how they're handling it, I got to be honest, I'm a little bit surprised that Dustin Wolf wasn't the starter Tuesday in Nashville. And I say that only because Dustin Wolf gave up 3 goals on 4 shots last Wednesday in Tampa. And I guess I come from the school that you probably don't want your number one face of the franchise goalie stewing over a really bad start for as long as the Flames let him stew over it. And I do understand, ride the hot hand. Devin Cooley almost had a shutout on Sunday in Carolina. And how do you take a guy out after that? But I guess I tend to look a little bit more at the big picture and think, no. Dustin Wolf is the horse that you have this wagon attached to, and it's time to get him back in. We'll see him Thursday against Minnesota. As far as moving forward, if you could get Devin Cooley maybe a start a week, what if that becomes sort of, a 70-30 split in goaltender workload, that probably makes sense to me, but I'd be shocked if we see another stretch of 5-7, which is what he has going into this game against Minnesota.
Yeah, and I'm largely just going to repeat a lot of what Wes said, but say it in a different way. But there's no goaltending controversy because there can't be. That's the reality. I mean, the Flames committed long-term big money to Dustin Wolf, so they have no choice. I mean, that would actually be a horrible contract if he wound up being your backup or not a star, right? I mean, there was a little bit of risk. It didn't feel like there was a ton of risk because of his rookie season, but it is why a lot of teams might not have signed it without seeing it for a second year. Devin Cooley is a free agent at the end of the season. So, the better he plays, this is going to lead into the next question you're going to ask. But, the question is whether he becomes a bit of an asset. There are teams that need goaltending around the league. And frankly, Devin Cooley's been good enough that they should be interested. I didn't understand, like Wes, I really didn't get leaving him out for as long as he was. When it comes to Dustin Wolf, I think that he should have probably played one of the last couple games, but he'll get back in. This does bring back to me, there was a couple seasons ago when Jacob Markstrom was the starter here. Jacob Markstrom went through a really bad stretch. He said, "I suck at hockey" at one point in the media. Dan Vladar started basically every game for a week and a half. The Flames just put him in and said, "Hey, Jacob, take a break." Dustin Wolf has been pulled 3 times this season. It is possible, we don't know the behind-the-scenes conversations that took place, that they said, "Hey, we're giving you a week. You're not in unless you're needed. Reset. Get back. We need you at your best." It is possible that that's what happened, and that could be a real positive. But again, there's no controversy because there can't be. Dustin Wolf is a starter in Calgary. Devin Cooley may be starting games elsewhere by March, but there's no controversy.
I just want to add to that, though, because it's really interesting that you mentioned the Markstrom comment a few years ago. And obviously that got a lot of people talking. And I think part of what led to that is everybody was on Jacob Markstrom, right? He'd had some bad games. The fan base was on him. He probably felt, and I can't get between Jacob's ears, but he probably felt like he sucked at goaltending because everyone was telling him he did. And for me, that's more reason to get Dustin Wolf back in. Like if you go rewind that start in Tampa, yeah, you never want to give up 3 on 4, but it's not like, oh my God, he's facing the wrong direction. He's holding his stick wrong. He doesn't know how to play goalie anymore. And that to me is more reason to put Dustin Wolf in. Like, this is a guy that you put in a bad spot at the start of the season by playing him way too much. And now he's sitting on the bench, probably looking at his coach going like, okay, you couldn't take me out of the net earlier, but now I can't get back in. Like, what are we doing here? And I don't want to make it seem like this is some, that this is going to be some bitter feud at the Saddle Dome between Dustin Wolf and his coaches. I don't think that's the case at all, but it's just more impetus. Like, okay, put your number one goalie back in.
Yep, and as you guys pointed out, Dustin Wolf will be in goal when they take on Minnesota on Thursday night. So, Wes, you also wrote earlier this week about the age-old debate whether to sell early or wait until closer to the deadline. And the Flames, of course, have a bunch of players that have been in trade rumors for a while now. But, as we get closer to the end of the year, of course, there's going to be a bit of that trade freeze where teams will not be moving players. But where do you stand on this, having, dug into the research and picked your brain a little bit? Are you a person that wants to sell earlier and maybe try to get a little bit more, or wait a little bit later where there's maybe some more teams that could be in the mix come trade deadline?
I think the answer on this, and not to sound like a fence sitter, is that it sort of needs to be case by case with players. Just to take a step back, the reason I wanted to dig into this is part of the sort of firestorm from Don Maloney's comments a couple of weeks ago was fans saying, "Hey, we're gonna miss the opportunity to sell. Look, Nashville's gonna sell and Vancouver's gonna sell, and we're gonna be sitting here." And so you can kind of go through okay, well, what's it look like to get a jump on the market? And the Flames did that very successfully when they traded Elias Lindholm at the end of January of 2024. That was about 5 weeks before the deadline, and netted the Flames two of their best prospects in Hunter Brustevich and a first-round pick that they used on Matvei Gridin. You can look last year when the Dallas Stars paid handsomely to jump the market on Michael Granlund and Cody Ceci. And so there's probably one trade to be made like that if you can perhaps unload a Rasmus Anderson early, if you can take advantage of a team with a significant injury, maybe like the Dallas Stars who just lost Tyler Seguin to an ACL injury and suddenly need a center. If you can get what you're asking for early, then it makes sense. I just don't think you can do everything early. And before I throw it over to Danny, the other thing I'd add is we love to look at past deadlines and figure out like what are the trends here. And the difference this year is we haven't had an Olympic break for 12 years. Like, we don't know how the Olympic break is going to impact teams wanting to add salary, wanting to take on someone else's injury risk. When the NHL went to Sochi in 2014, John Tavares and Henrik Zetterberg didn't play for the rest of that season because of major injuries. And so there's going to be an opportunity to wait and potentially capitalize on something like that. And so there's a lot that goes into it, but I think it sort of has to become case by case with the players.
I'll say all of my algorithms over the last 36 hours have decided that what I want is information on the arena in Italy and whether it's being ready.
3 feet, Danny. It's going to be 3 feet. It'll change your life.
It has been relentless. So maybe there won't be an Olympic break. Who knows? But I agree with everything Wes says. Like, I think Rasmus Anderson is the one who we generally are all pretty confident is going to get moved. He's playing so well right now that, you're going to say sell high. It depends on who's looking to buy though. And for me, honestly, I am avoiding because I'm not going to be as articulate as Wes. His answer was better than anything mine's going to be. But I just think if the right deal is there, of course you pull the trigger now. But at the same time, you have an asset where the return could legitimately be transformative. We've seen some of those trades that the Flames made 2 seasons ago have yielded some really, really good prospects. Not immediately, but, in a year or two when those picks come to fruition. So I think it is also prudent to wait for the right deal. Do not sell now for the sake of selling. Everything else with the other players, we don't even know if the Flames are going to be willing to trade a guy like Nazem Kadri. He sure does look like a good fit in Dallas if that's the move. But, case by case basis, make sure you get the right deal. That is, in my opinion, a priority.
And that's the biggest thing we can learn from that Lindholm deal, right? In January of 2024 is when everyone said to Craig Conroy, "Why now?" He said, "Well, I set a price and Vancouver was willing to match it. So basically flipped the question around, why wait? And so, you know, Craig Conroy has his price for Rasmus Anderson, and possibly a price, not possibly, he'd have a price that could pry some of these other guys out of Calgary, the Blake Colemans of the world with term left on their deal. And I guess it's a matter of whether someone steps up and matches it.
Well, fortunately or unfortunately, Craig Conroy does have some experience with these things, so he sure knows how to play the market and understands the dynamics that are at play. We'll see how it all shakes out. As always, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. For Wes Gilbertson and Danny Austin, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you on the next one.